Hi, good morning everybody. David here with Via Render. In this video, I want to take a little bit of time to talk to you about how to bring in new assets and new models, particularly from the company Imeshh. So firstly, what is Imeshh? Well, just like it says on the screen, Imeshh is a huge 3D model library filled with textures, furniture, decoration, and some really unbelievably high quality assets. They're really worth investing in, especially, you consider it's $149, but they often do sales. It's an incredibly good value for just the sheer amount of high quality assets that you get. And unlike a lot of websites that offer high quality assets, Imeshh is sort of a single pay once system. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription fee. So you're basically paying one time, especially if you time it during a sale. It's a really good resource. Let's take a look at the shop here really quickly, just to show you how good these materials and models actually are. Once you go ahead and sign up for an Imeshh account, and I should point out, I'm not affiliated with Imeshh at all. I just have a subscription, and I think the models are really good. I don't know the Imeshh business. I don't know the people who run it, but what they're actually selling in terms of the quality of their 3D models is really good. All right, so here we are. We're in the Imeshh website after we've logged in, and you can see that we have a variety of different tabs on the left that will categorize different ArcViz objects. So we can take a look at things like the bathroom objects, bedroom objects, decorations, things like that. Now, once you go ahead and sign in, what you can actually do is just go ahead and click on the object that you would like to download. And you can see we've got some information here, what version of Blender is it compatible with, the polygon count, things like that. And you can just go ahead and click the download button, and that will download your object. Now, they will come in downloading obviously as a zip file, so you will need to extract that. All right, let's bounce over to SketchUp and see how we can start populating a scene with a mixture of D5 and Imeshh assets. All right, so here we are in in SketchUp, and I've got a pretty basic scene set up here. I've got some windows. By the way, a lot of the times I'll use these Colby, K-O-L-B-E windows. They're available from the warehouse. I think they're really good, and they are very much, I think, worth bookmarking in SketchUp. You can see I've just got a very basic inset ceiling, and I've got some decorative elements on the wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this over to D5, and I'll talk about how to use an Imeshh asset to start populating our scene. Okay, so here we are in D5 Render. I've just gone ahead and sent that over using the traditional D5 converter. Just as easy as hitting the connect to D5 render and occasionally hitting the update button if you need to. So here we are, and I've gone ahead and just applied a rough white wall material and just applied one of the sort of just wood grain materials to this wood element back here. So let's talk about getting our stuff into D5. Well, objects that you download from Imeshh do come in zipped. You can extract them. So I've gone ahead and I've just set up a folder here that is basically just a collection of assets from Imeshh. And I've gone ahead and just called this like an Imeshh project. Now, if you're using Blender with Imeshh, we should point out there's a whole other kind of workflow for that I'm not going to go over in this video. But here we have just a folder filled with our objects, and these have been extracted, and we're going to go ahead and bring them into D5. So the first thing we're going to do is actually bring in our table. And so to do that, we're going to go up here to the top left, just hit import, go to your assets. I'm going to go to an Imeshh project. I'm going to go ahead and just change this to extra large icons so we can see what we're working with, our dark wood table. And you can see Imeshh will provide these files in either FBX and OBJ, and I think set up for Corona render through Blender, I believe. So I'm just going to go ahead and just top these off. All right. Now, it will take a minute to load up into D5. You are bringing in sort of an exterior asset. But once it loads, go down to the bottom left here, click on this, and there we go. We can bring in our asset just like that. Okay, that looks pretty nice. You can come in, you can see it kind of comes in with perfect scale setup, and you can go ahead and rotate it. Okay, that looks pretty nice. All right, in the next section, let's go ahead and look at materials. So the Imeshh files obviously will come with the FBX and the different file formats. They also do come with the textures in that compressed folder. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to select my table, hit I on the keyboard, bring up the little eyedropper, select the table, and let's start applying our materials. Okay, for the base color map, I'm going to click on that and we're going to go to wood base color, and this is in 4K. And you can see that the objects themselves are beautifully unwrapped. The textures go on absolutely perfectly. All right, let's see what else we've got in our folder. So normal, I'm going to go ahead and apply the normal map here. I'm going to crank up the strength of our normal map substantially. We also have a 4K roughness, and I'm going to apply that as well. And I think I'll leave the roughness on the default value. Let the map govern sort of the roughness. Now, for the seat cushions, again, I'm going to go base color map, load up leather. Actually, I think that should be this guy here, base color leather. And then we've got a base color roughness, which is the leather roughness. And I think we have a leather normal. Yeah, there we go. Now, I don't love the orange cushions, so I'm going to select them. And under the base color, let's see if we can't maybe just tweak this a little bit. Now, one of the really, really fantastic things about Imeshh models is how well constructed they are. Oftentimes, had you like downloaded this from like a non-paid site or one of the other websites that provides 3D models, this would have all come in as one sort of like object. Now, the Imeshh models do come in terms of FBX format as one thing. So if I do select this, by default in D5, I don't think you can break this apart. You can't like select the chairs, but the materials you can. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my materials palette, and I'm going to go to material. I'm going to go to fabric, and I don't want leather on these seats. So I'm just going to grab this beige linen and actually apply it directly to the seats. And I think that looks really nice. We're just going to adjust the scale a little bit just on the stretch. I'm going to put that down to, let's put it at 2. There we go. That looks really, really nice. Okay, let's go ahead and bring in some more assets and start populating our scene. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is bring in a few more assets. So I've gone ahead and downloaded a dining set from Imeshh. And I'm going to go ahead and just place this here. And sorry for the bouncy camera. And I'm going to go ahead and just drop the fly speed over here just to slow down the camera. And again, you could go ahead and just load up the actual Imeshh materials for each of this, or you can go ahead and just apply your own. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply my own. I'm just going to grab some metal for the cutlery. So we're going to go materials. I'm going to go to favorites. And I think I'll put on this brushed aluminum alloy for the cutlery. I think that looks good. And I'll do the same for the ring that just runs around the napkin. For the actual plates and cups themselves, let's go to ceramic. And let's just go white glazed porcelain. I think that will look pretty sweet. And it doesn't really show up very well in the viewport, but it is applied, which is nice. And then for the actual napkin, let's go ahead and just go back to our fabric tab again, and we'll just find something that, something that kind of looks, okay, gray gauze curtain, nobody's going to be really looking too closely at this. Now, one really, really nice thing about this is once you're happy with your asset, you can actually select it. Now, you can right-click here in the Object tab. So, for example, I have this dining set right here. You can right-click, and we should be able to load up duplicates. There we go, just doing that, and spin. And you can also then just sample the materials from here. Or if you want an even faster way, we can just select these and Control D will make an exact duplicate of our objects. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. We've got a pretty simple visual setup. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Let's continue to add some more decorative elements. I'm going to go ahead and bring in this metallic vase set. And I'm actually going to place these just on the back here. I think that will work pretty nice. Judging from, our room setup, there's a good chance our camera will probably be over here. So we've got some shelf space that we could do with filling up. Let's go ahead and place these vases here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit V on the keyboard and just scale these up. And hit V again to switch to the move. Just move these decorative, and these are just going to sit on the floor as a sort of decorative element. I'm going to go ahead and apply textures to these, and these textures are also going to come from the Imeshh. All right, I'll be right back after we've done that. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and brought in a few more objects. We take a look over here. We've got these really, really nice metallic pots. You can check out on the right. We're using metallic map workflow for those. We've also brought in some more decorative elements from Imeshh and just gone ahead and placed them, just sort of putting our decoration in a kind of a loose fashion. Brought in our little elephant lamp, and to try and replicate the lamp effect, we've gone ahead and put a really soft light in there. This is just a regular point light for D5, and just gone ahead and dropped the intensity so you're not actually kind of sort of blowing light too much into the scene. And we've made the actual elephant itself a little bit emissive as well. And that will just kind of add to the feeling that light is kind of coming through your object. We've added a centerpiece from Imeshh as well. We've downloaded one of their flower models. And I have gone ahead and changed the material here on this section on the base to just be more of a lightweight concrete. Okay, all in all, it's looking great. There's still, you can mix and match, and you can definitely bring in content from D5 as well. Feel free to mix and match your favorite decorative elements from D5 and to just mix and match kind of the stuff that you like that kind of adds to your scene. You're going to go through the D5 library and just, kind of find sort of decorations that you kind of like, stuff that you like to use or that you've used quite a bit before. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just going ahead and kind of combining different elements to make your scene look better. And again, it's just, it's kind of an organic process unless you have a very specific look in mind. And even then, a lot of the joy comes from just bringing stuff in and seeing how this looks overall. So we can see our little elephant light is probably a little too strong. We may end up turning off the emissiveness on that and just kind of dialing that down and just seeing how it looks with the actual light on the inside instead. And I'm just going to add one or two more pieces to this and maybe start adding some lights. I did go ahead and bring in an Imeshh light, and I've gone ahead and made the bottom part emissive. We're not going to get a huge amount of light from that. It's more just for the actual overall effect. With D5, I did a previous video on this. I do think the best result is very much combining a mixture of light from the outside and a mixture of your own lights as well. Okay, I'm going to add a few more decorative pieces, and then we're just going to go ahead and set up a quick render, and you guys can take a look and see what the finished result is like, and take a quick look at just some of the really nice Imeshh models in our scene. All right, be right back. So with all of our materials set up, I think we're in a pretty good spot. I did go ahead and add just a background plane and a few kind of dead or, sort of older looking trees to give a very sort of fall or autumnal look to the scene. And I've just gone ahead and just saved a single scene up here. And I'm pretty happy. I'm going to go ahead and just tweak the lighting setup. I'm going to switch to the HDRI. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time running through all the lighting sort of setup for this. So I'm just going to put on a basic HDRI. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the sun. I'm going to spin this so we get some light, a little bit of light falling on our content. Might as well show it off to the best possible light. And I think that looks pretty nice. I'm going to just increase the light here a little bit. We're going to go to exposure, turn off auto exposure, and yeah, ooh, that looks really nice. Okay, just going to go ahead and tweak these a little bit. And again, I have done a whole video on what I think the best lighting setup for D5 is. I might try and link out to that. But for now, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. I think we're just going to tilt our camera ever so slightly, go ahead and update the scene, and then I'm going to go and, for this light here, we're going to go ahead and just place quite a strong, just basic light. And I'm going to go ahead and just drop this down to about 10. Visible reflections is fine because, you know, light would actually be coming from here. And I'm going to tweak the attenuation radius just a little bit. Get some nice shadows going on. And then I think what we'll do is just add 1 or 2 spotlights up here. We don't have like anything in the ceiling. And that's like totally fine. That, you know, the whole crux of this was not to do a lighting scenario. This was just to talk about how great Imeshh is and to bring in their stuff. And I think this is looking really good. Last light we're going to add is, I think it's a fill. I'm just going to add a rectangular light over here, rotate it, and lift it up, and spin it a little bit. And yeah, I think that, you know, yeah, I think that's looking really, really nice. And again, just maybe drop the intensity of this a little. And we're going to make this one a little bit cooler. So we've got this warm light coming in from outside. And the last thing we'll do really quickly is just go ahead and tweak our render settings themselves. So we're just going to go to the image mode. I am going to do just a 4K for this, just for expediency's sake, just to speed things up a little bit. Pull the camera back and adjust our field of view. So I'm going to go ahead and just tweak this quite a bit here. Let's put in 40, and I think we could probably get away with doing 45 perhaps. Might do a video on this later, just like setting up the correct field of view. Grab our light, and again, we're just sort of faking it, so we can just bring these down. We don't have to have everything in the scene. And we don't have to have everything perfectly set up either. I think that works really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and render that out. All right, I'll see you in the next video. I do want to show you the finished result. And I also want to talk about what to do if you get an Imeshh model and you want to put specific materials on specific parts. What's the best approach for that? Okay, everybody. I want to talk about what to do if you download an Imeshh object and you really, really like it and you bring it into D5 and you find that you're not able to adjust it to the level that you want. So for example, I've downloaded this golden shelf, which is a really, really fantastic model. I mean, it just looks absolutely brilliant. So it's a shelf with a ton of decorative elements on it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just backfly. Now, you could go through here and manually load up all of the fantastic Imeshh textures, but that's like, well, really, really time consuming, and you have to be able to identify each object, and you just want your model in your scene, and you just want it to look absolutely awesome. Okay, so this brings us to kind of an issue. Imeshh was intended as a Blender repository of models. It is meant really primarily for use in Blender. Now, I know Greg Miles at Luminous Labs did a whole video tutorial on bringing Imeshh into Lumion. But really, you know, for the most part, it was intended for use in Blender, and it's so good in Blender. It's effectively just drag and drop decorations and fantastic assets. But again, we want to get it into D5. So what you can actually do is load this up in Blender. Blender, if you're not aware, is free. I think probably everybody watching this video probably knows what Blender is. But Blender is free 3D modeling and free 3D everything software. It's really brilliant. But if you're primarily a SketchUp user, so you can kind of see here, this was our original SketchUp file and it's very empty. you can't really bring the iMesh models into SketchUp and then send them over to D5. But if you load them up in Blender, and when I say load them up, there is an iMesh extension that you can use. Details for installing that are going to be on the iMesh YouTube page. But when you do install it, you can actually see all of the iMesh assets that you download come with these really lovely thumbnails, and you can literally just like grab stuff, hit append, and bring it into your scene, hit G to grab, and you know, it's just so easy to work with. But at the same time, if you're doing most of your work in SketchUp, you just want to be able to load stuff straight in. So what we can do is I've gone ahead and I've actually appended the same object that we want in D5. And you'll notice in Blender, we currently have this viewport that's not that great. But if we go to the top right, you can go to the viewport shading, and we can actually turn that on. And you can kind of see it looks so good right now. It's probably a little dark for you guys looking to see, but all of the materials are applied correctly. So I'm going to go back to the default viewport shading, which looks like this. But I want to get this over to D5. Well, thankfully, makers of D5 have gone ahead and finalized an updated D5 Blender converter, which is so cool. So here we have, I've gone ahead and installed it. And what we can actually do is we've options now over here on the right for export to D5, a D5 sort of live link, which is very similar to the SketchUp live link. And we've got options for D5 material bake. I'm going to go ahead and put the texture resolution down to 1K. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the sync really quickly here. And I'm just going to turn sync on. Now, this, I'm going to go out on the limb and just kind of assume that what I think this does is actually just bake all the textures in. Kind of similar to what like Substance Painter does. I think as long as your materials are correctly laid out in terms of UVs, I think it bakes it and then just exports it directly to D5. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a second. I don't think this will take very long, but I don't want you guys to look at an exporting bar. I'm just going to pause and see what result we get in D5 in a moment. Okay, so here we are back in D5, and you can see now that D5, the Blender converter, has gone ahead and, like I said, I believe baked everything in and sent our really fantastic iMesh model over to D5. And you can see everything is basically in the right place. All of the objects have the right materials applied, and more importantly, you can still select any of the component pieces. So for example, this little horse here, and I'm just going to go ahead and put like plastic. Let's just go, say for some reason we wanted red plastic on. There we go. And I mean, it's just, I think it's just absolutely brilliant. Okay, I'm going to Control Z that because you'll notice that we haven't sent over a scene. And compared to the original, just bringing in the iMesh model, you can see that this is just seen by D5 as one thing. I'm going to delete that. And the reason why, now that I have this object brought in with everything set up perfectly, I'm going to go over here to import it. I'm going to not click on that. I'm sorry. Hit delete on this guy. But this object here, we should, all things being considered equal, we should probably be able to go ahead and add this to our own asset library. Okay, so I'm going to drag out a selection, make sure we can select this and add to local. And now if we go up here to assets and local, you can see that we should have this object added to local. So at any point now, in any scene, we should be able to go ahead and just load this up. I think this is just, I mean, that workflow is just going to be so good for bringing in iMesh assets and for bringing in assets from really other 3D programs that aren't just, you know, the SketchUp warehouse or things like that. I've already started adding a lot of iMesh assets to my local D5 render asset library and just start using them in scenes. They work really, really well, and they absolutely complement the fantastic asset library that you get with D5. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for today. I'm not going to say that you have to go and purchase the Imeshh library. I just know that, the longer I've been doing this, the more valuable really good assets actually are. Good models are just an integral part of really good finished renders. And yeah, you could spend a lot of time mooching around the internet trying to find some free content that maybe meets the criteria, or, just get the subscription. And I think it just pays for itself. In the year or two that I've had Imeshh, it really has just been one of the best sort of financial commitments, on top of the software and things like that. Yeah, I think Imeshh is really, really great. I think if you get the chance and you've got the money, go support them. They seem like a really, really nice group of people and seem like a really good business. And, considering you're getting a huge amount of assets already pre-made, and considering that you're getting new assets every month as well, I do think it is worth the investment. Okay, all right, I'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you guys soon with a new video. All right,